The knock came at 11:47 on a Thursday night, hard enough to wake the dead but somehow not loud enough to disturb the 5-year-old sleeping upstairs. Noah Carter stood frozen in his kitchen, dish towel still in hand because nobody knocked on his door at midnight in suburban Ohio. Nobody except police with bad news or neighbors with emergencies. He wasn't prepared for the third option, a ghost from 7 years ago, drenched to the bone and trembling on his front porch. Emily Martinez looked nothing like the confident pre-med student who'd once challenged him to midnight debates about philosophy and starred in his favorite college memories. She looked like someone who'd finally run out of places to run. "I didn't know where else to go," she whispered, and Noah realized the storm outside wasn't the only thing breaking apart that night. Before we dive into this story of unexpected refuge, second chances, and the quiet courage it takes to ask for help, I want to invite you on this journey with me. If this story resonates with you, please hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel and connecting with all of you. Now, let's begin. The rain had started 3 hours earlier as Noah Carter tucked his daughter Lily into bed, her small hand wrapped around his finger as he read the final pages of their nightly story. At 5 years old, she had opinions about everything from the color of her socks to whether dragons could realistically breathe fire given basic biology. Tonight, she'd argued passionately that the princess in the book should have rescued herself instead of waiting around. "You're absolutely right," Noah had told her, kissing her forehead. Maybe she was just waiting for the right moment. Or maybe she was scared, Lily said with the brutal honesty only children possess. "Being scared is okay, Daddy. You told me that." He had told her that, during the thunderstorms that sometimes sent her running to his room, during the first days of kindergarten when everything felt too big and too new. He told her that being scared didn't mean being weak, that asking for help was actually the bravest thing a person could do. Noah hadn't expected to have his own words tested 3 hours later. The knock came as he finished washing the last of the dinner dishes, a routine so familiar he could do it half asleep. Load the dishwasher, wipe down the counters, prep Lily's lunch for tomorrow, review the day's receipts from his small accounting practice. The rhythm of single fatherhood had smoothed into something manageable over the past 3 years, ever since Sarah had decided that suburban motherhood wasn't the adventure she'd signed up for. The divorce had been surprisingly amicable. Sarah hadn't wanted custody beyond occasional weekends. She'd wanted freedom, wanted to find herself, wanted all the things that apparently didn't include the family they'd built together. Noah had been hurt, confused, and then grimly determined to give Lily the stability her mother couldn't provide. He was good at stability. It was perhaps his defining characteristic, steady, reliable Noah Carter. The guy you called when your taxes were a mess or your retirement planning needed attention. Not the guy you expected to find adventure with, but the guy who'd still be there when the adventure ended badly. Which was probably why Emily stood on his porch looking like her adventure had ended very, very badly. He stared at her through the screen door for a full 5 seconds, his brain struggling to reconcile the shivering, rain-soaked woman in front of him with his memories of Emily from college. Back then, she'd moved through the world with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where she was headed. Pre-med track, volunteer coordinator for 3 different organizations, the kind of person who could rally a study group at 2 in the morning and somehow make organic chemistry feel like a shared mission instead of torture. They'd been friends, good friends, during their overlapping years at Ohio State. The kind of friends who studied together, grabbed late-night food together, showed up at each other's events. There'd always been something else there, something unspoken that neither of them had the courage to name. Then graduation happened, life happened, and they drifted apart the way people do when they're figuring out who they're supposed to become. 7 years of silence, and now this. "Emily?" His voice came out rougher than he intended. She flinched slightly, wrapping her arms tighter around herself. She wore jeans and a thin sweater completely inadequate for the downpour, her dark hair plastered to her face. No jacket, no umbrella. Her car, he could see it now at the curb, hazard lights blinking, looked like she'd abandoned it in a hurry. "I'm sorry," she said, the words tumbling out fast and desperate. "I know it's late. I know this is crazy. The storm got bad and I was driving and I wasn't thinking clearly, and somehow I ended up on your street and I remembered you bought a house in this neighborhood and—" She stopped, took a shaking breath. "I didn't know where else to go." Noah's paralysis broke. He pushed open the screen door, already reaching for her. Get inside. You're freezing. She hesitated for just a moment. And in that moment, he saw something that made his chest tight. Shame, maybe, or embarrassment at needing help. Then she stepped across his threshold, and the 7 years collapsed into nothing. Up close, the changes were more obvious. She was thinner than he remembered, with shadows under her eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights. There was a tension in her shoulders, a wariness that hadn't existed in the confident young woman he'd known. But her eyes were the same warm brown, even filled with the tears she was clearly fighting. I'm dripping all over your floor, she said, her voice cracking. I don't care about the floor. Stay here. Noah moved quickly, grabbing a towel from the bathroom and one of his hoodies from the closet. When he returned, Emily hadn't moved from the spot just inside the door, as if she was afraid to intrude further into his space. He draped the towel around her shoulders. The bathroom's down the hall if you want to dry off properly. This hoodie should fit. It's huge on me, and I'll make tea. Noah, you don't have to I'm making tea, he said firmly. Go dry off before you catch pneumonia. She went, and Noah headed to the kitchen, his mind racing. The last he'd heard about Emily through mutual acquaintances was that she'd been accepted to medical school in Pennsylvania. That was maybe 5 years ago. Clearly something had changed between then and now, something that had brought her to his door on a rain-soaked Thursday night looking like the world had chewed her up. He filled the kettle, pulled out 2 mugs, selected chamomile tea because it was the most calming thing he had. His hands moved through the familiar motions while his thoughts spun in tight circles. Should he ask what happened? Should he wait for her to tell him? What was the protocol for a friend you hadn't seen in 7 years showing up in crisis? The sound of small feet on the stairs made him turn. Lily stood on the bottom step in her unicorn pajamas, clutching her stuffed elephant and rubbing her eyes. Daddy, I heard voices. Noah's heart sank. He'd hoped to handle whatever this situation was without waking his daughter. Hey, Bug, there's a friend here who needed help. Go back to bed, okay? Is your friend okay? Lily's concern was immediate and genuine because, of course it was. They'd raised her to care about people. She will be. But she needs some quiet time right now. Lily considered this with the seriousness she applied to all of life's problems. Okay, but if she needs a hug, I give really good hugs. You always say so. I'll tell her, Noah promised. Now up to bed before you fall asleep on the stairs. She trudged back up, and Noah heard the creak of her mattress as she climbed in. Crisis averted, at least on that front. Emily emerged from the bathroom looking marginally more put together. His hoodie swallowed her frame, the sleeves hanging past her hands. She'd wrung out her hair and wiped the rain from her face, but her eyes were still red-rimmed. Was that your daughter? She asked quietly. Yeah, Lily, she's 5. Noah poured the hot water over the tea bags. She wanted to make sure you're okay. Something shifted in Emily's expression, softness mixed with pain. You have a daughter. Of course you do. I'm so sorry for barging in like this. If I'd known... Emily, sit down. Noah pushed a mug across the kitchen table and sat down himself, gesturing to the chair across from him. After a moment she sat, wrapping both hands around the warm ceramic. The silence stretched between them, filled only by the drumming of rain against the windows. Noah waited. He'd learned patience from years of coaxing information out of clients who didn't understand their own finances, and from countless nights convincing Lily that yes, she did need to talk about her feelings instead of bottling them up. Finally, Emily spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I bet you're wondering what the hell I'm doing here. I'm wondering if you're okay, Noah corrected gently. She laughed, but it was a broken sound. No, I'm really not okay. She took a sip of tea, grimaced at the heat, set it down. I was supposed to be finishing my residency right now. Did you know that? I made it through medical school, matched to a hospital in Pittsburgh. I was going to be a pediatrician. The past tense hung heavy in the air. What happened? Noah asked. Emily stared into her tea like it might contain answers. I met someone during my 3rd year. Dr. Marcus Webb. He was an attending, brilliant surgeon, everything I thought I wanted to be. He was confident and accomplished, and he paid attention to me in a way that felt, I don't know, validating, like I mattered. Noah stayed quiet, sensing there was much more to come. We started dating. It was great at first. He supported my career, encouraged me, made me feel capable. But then little things started changing. He'd critique how I presented cases, tell me I was too emotional with patients, suggest I needed to develop a thicker skin. I thought he was trying to help me improve. She paused, and Noah saw her hands tighten around the mug. It got worse. He started controlling things. What I wore to the hospital, who I spent time with, how I talked to other doctors. He said it was for my own good, that he was protecting my reputation. I believed him because he was older, more experienced, because I thought he loved me. The pieces were falling into place, painting a picture that made Noah's jaw clench. I started doubting myself constantly, Emily continued, her voice hollow, second-guessing every decision, every diagnosis. My confidence evaporated. I made mistakes I never would have made before because I was so worried about being wrong, about proving him right about my incompetence. And he was there every time, telling me he was disappointed, that I wasn't living up to my potential. Emily, I quit my residency 6 months ago. The words came out flat, defeated. I couldn't handle it anymore. The constant criticism, the anxiety, the feeling like I was failing at everything. Marcus said I was making a huge mistake, that I was throwing away my career. He was probably right about that. We broke up 3 months ago when I finally couldn't take his disappointment anymore. She looked up at Noah, and the devastation in her eyes was almost physical. I don't know who I am anymore, Noah. I used to be so sure of everything, where I was going, what I wanted, who I was supposed to be. Now I'm 30 years old, living in my childhood bedroom at my parents' house in Columbus, with no career, no confidence, and no idea how to fix any of it. I'm a complete disaster. Noah let the silence settle for a moment, choosing his words carefully. You're not a disaster. You're someone who got hurt and is trying to figure out how to heal. I showed up on your doorstep in the middle of the night because I was having a panic attack while driving in a storm, she said bitterly. That's pretty much the definition of a disaster. That's the definition of being smart enough to ask for help instead of driving while panicking, Noah corrected, which, by the way, took courage. Emily shook her head. I barely remember deciding to come here. I was on the highway, the rain got worse, and I was hyperventilating and couldn't breathe, and suddenly I was taking the exit for your neighborhood. I haven't talked to you in 7 years, and my brain decided you were the safe option. I am the safe option, Noah said quietly. I'm glad your brain remembered that. She looked at him properly then, really looked at him, and something in her expression cracked. You were always so steady. Even in college, when everyone else was losing their minds over exams or relationships or figuring out life, you were just calm, present, like you knew exactly who you were. Noah almost laughed. I definitely didn't know who I was in college. I was faking it like everyone else. You didn't seem like it. You seemed sure. I seem boring, Noah said with a slight smile. Let's be honest, you were the one with the exciting life, pre-med, saving the world one volunteer shift at a time. I was the accounting major who got excited about spreadsheets. You were kind, Emily said softly. You were the person who actually listened when people talked, who showed up when you said you would, who made people feel like they mattered. She swallowed hard. I forgot what that felt like. Someone making me feel like I mattered without needing something from me. The kettle whistled again. Noah had put it back on without thinking, the habit of hospitality running deep. He stood to pour fresh hot water, giving them both a moment to breathe. When he sat back down, he decided to take a risk. Can I tell you what I see right now? Emily tensed slightly, but nodded. I see someone who's been through hell and is still fighting. Someone who recognized she was in a bad situation and got herself out, even when it cost everything. Someone who's smart enough to know when she needs help and brave enough to ask for it. Noah held her gaze. That person isn't a disaster, Emily. That person is a survivor who's still figuring out the next chapter. Tears spilled over and Emily didn't try to stop them. I don't feel like a survivor. I feel broken. Broken things can be mended, Noah said gently. They just need time and the right conditions. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of his hoodie. Listen to you, all wise and therapist-like. When did that happen? Single fatherhood forces you to learn a lot of therapy-adjacent skills, Noah said with a rueful smile. Lily has big feelings about everything. I've gotten good at talking through them. What happened with her mom? If you don't mind me asking. Noah considered how much to share. Sarah, my ex-wife, decided that being a mother wasn't what she wanted after all. She's not really in the picture except for occasional weekends when it's convenient for her. Lily and I figure it out together. That must be hard. Some days, Noah admitted, but mostly it's just life. We have our routine, our team. She's an amazing kid, smart, funny, empathetic. I'm lucky. Emily studied him for a long moment. You really mean that? You're not just saying it. I really mean it. My life didn't turn out the way I planned either, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Just different. The rain had softened to a steady rhythm against the roof. Emily's shivers had subsided, the tea and the warm hoodie doing their work. Noah could see exhaustion settling into her features, the kind of bone-deep tiredness that came from carrying too much for too long. You should stay the night, he said, making it a statement rather than a question. The guest room's clean. I keep it ready for when my sister visits. You shouldn't drive in this weather, especially not in your current state. Noah, I can't just... Yes, you can. It's late, you're exhausted, and the storm isn't letting up. There's no debate happening here. He stood, carrying their mugs to the sink. Come on, I'll get you some blankets. She followed him down the hallway, past Lily's room, where small snores indicated his daughter was soundly asleep, to the guest room at the end of the hall. It was simple but comfortable. A double bed with a blue quilt, a dresser, a lamp on the nightstand. Noah pulled fresh sheets from the closet and started making the bed with practiced efficiency. I can do that, Emily protested. I've got it. You've had a rough night. He smoothed the fitted sheet over the corners, added the top sheet and quilt. Bathrooms across the hall. There are extra towels in the cabinet. Help yourself to anything you need. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, looking small and lost in his oversized hoodie. Thank you for all of this, for not making me explain myself or judging me for falling apart on your doorstep. Noah sat down beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. You don't need to thank me for basic human decency. That's just what friends do. We haven't been friends in 7 years. Doesn't change the fact that we were, Noah said. Some things don't have an expiration date. She turned to look at him, and in her eyes he saw the echo of late-night study sessions, philosophical debates over terrible coffee, shared laughter over inside jokes that probably wouldn't be funny to anyone else. He saw the Emily he'd known, buried under the pain and fear, but still there, still fighting. I missed you, she said quietly. I didn't realize how much until right now, but I missed this. Missed feeling like someone actually saw me instead of just seeing what they wanted me to be. Noah felt something shift in his chest, something that felt dangerously like the old attraction he'd never quite acted on in college. He pushed it aside. Now wasn't the time for that. Might never be the time for that. What mattered was that Emily needed a friend and he could be that. I'm glad you're here, he said honestly. Even under the circumstances. It's good to see you again. She smiled, small but genuine. Even though I'm a disaster? Especially because you're human, he corrected. Now get some sleep. We can figure out tomorrow when tomorrow comes. He stood to leave, but her voice stopped him at the door. Noah? He turned back. Do you ever get scared? Being alone, raising Lily by yourself, not knowing if you're doing everything right? The question was so raw, so vulnerable, that he couldn't give anything less than complete honesty. All the time, he said. Every single day I worry I'm screwing something up, that I'm not enough, that Lily deserves better. But then I remember that showing up and trying your best is actually a lot. And asking for help when you need it doesn't make you weak, it makes you smart. Emily nodded slowly. Your daughter's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. She keeps me honest. He smiled. Sleep well, Emily. I'm right down the hall if you need anything. He closed the door softly behind him and stood in the hallway for a moment, listening to the rain and the quiet sounds of his house settling. Somewhere in the night, Emily Martinez had crash-landed back into his life, broken and scared and looking for refuge. Noah didn't know what tomorrow would bring, didn't know if he could actually help her find her way back to herself. But he knew he was going to try. Because 7 years ago, Emily had been the person who'd stayed up with him the night before his mother's surgery, not saying much, just being present. She'd been the person who'd believed in him when he doubted whether he was smart enough for the advanced accounting track. She'd been the person who'd made him laugh during the hardest semester of his college career. Some debts didn't expire. Some friendships mattered enough to resurrect. Noah checked on Lily, still sleeping soundly, elephant tucked under her chin, and then headed to his own room. Through the wall, he could hear the faint sounds of Emily settling into the guest room, the creak of the bed, the rustle of blankets. He lay awake for a long time, listening to the storm outside and wondering what kind of storm he'd just invited into his carefully ordered life. But when he finally drifted off, his last thought was simple and true. Whatever happened next, he was glad she'd knocked on his door. Because everyone deserved a place to land when they were falling. Everyone deserved to be told they weren't a disaster, just human. And sometimes, the bravest thing you could do was let someone see you broken and trust them not to look away. The rain continued through the night, steady and relentless, washing the world clean while inside Noah Carter's house, two old friends began the delicate work of finding their way back to something that felt like solid ground. Morning came softly, filtering through the curtains in pale gold streaks that announced the storm had passed. Noah woke to the sound of Lily's footsteps padding down the hallway, not toward his room as usual, but stopping outside the guest room door. He was out of bed in seconds, pulling on a t-shirt as he hurried to intercept whatever conversation was about to happen. "Lily," he whispered, catching her just as her hand reached for the doorknob. "What are you doing?" His daughter looked up at him with those wide, serious eyes that always made him feel like she could see straight through any parental bluffing. "I wanted to check on your friend. You said she needed help." "She's sleeping, Bug. We don't wake up guests." "But what if she's sad? Sad people need pancakes. You always make me pancakes when I'm sad." Noah couldn't argue with that logic. "How about we make pancakes quietly, and if she wakes up, she can have some too?" Lily considered this compromise with the gravity of a judge deliberating a major case. "Chocolate chip pancakes? Is there any other kind?" She grinned and took his hand, and they crept downstairs together. Noah got Lily settled at the kitchen table with her coloring books while he started pulling out ingredients. The routine was familiar and comforting: measure flour, crack eggs, let Lily pour in the chocolate chips while he pretended not to notice her sneaking a handful into her mouth. They were halfway through the first batch when Emily appeared in the doorway, still wearing his hoodie, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked better than she had last night. The shadows under her eyes were still there, but the raw panic had faded. "Good morning," Noah said, keeping his voice casual. "There's coffee, and we're making pancakes if you're hungry." Lily's head snapped up from her coloring. "Are you Daddy's friend who needed help?" "Lily," Noah started, but Emily was already moving into the room, a tentative smile on her face. "I am," she said, crouching down to Lily's level. "My name's Emily. You must be Lily." "I'm 5 3/4, Lily announced, holding up her hand to display the appropriate number of fingers. "Daddy says you knew each other in college. That's where people go to learn really hard things." "That's exactly right," Emily said. "Your dad was very good at the really hard things. He's good at regular things, too. He makes the best pancakes, and he reads all the voices in my books, and he lets me help with his work sometimes, even though numbers are boring." "Numbers aren't boring," Noah interjected, flipping a pancake. "They're just misunderstood." Lily rolled her eyes in a gesture so adult it made Emily laugh. A real laugh. The first one Noah had heard from her since she'd arrived. Can Emily sit next to me?" Lily asked, already pulling out the chair beside her. "I'm coloring a dragon, and I need someone to do the princess." Emily glanced at Noah, uncertainty flickering across her face. He nodded encouragingly, and she slid into the seat. Lily immediately pushed a purple crayon into her hand and pointed at the princess on the page. "This one needs to be brave," Lily instructed. "She's going to rescue herself because that's what smart princesses do." "I like that philosophy," Emily said quietly, accepting the crayon. She started coloring with careful precision, staying inside the lines while Lily scribbled enthusiastically at the dragon's scales. Noah plated the pancakes and brought them to the table along with syrup and butter. For a few minutes, they ate in comfortable silence, Lily providing running commentary on proper dragon anatomy between bites. "So the wings have to be really big because physics," she explained to Emily. "Daddy taught me about ratios. If the dragon is this big, the wings have to be this big." She spread her arms wide, nearly knocking over her juice. "Careful, Bug," Noah said, steadying the glass. Emily was watching them with an expression Noah couldn't quite read. "You two have a good system," she observed. "We're a team," Lily said proudly. "Right, Daddy?" "The best team," Noah confirmed. He caught Emily's eye over his daughter's head and saw something there. Longing, maybe, or grief for the future she'd thought she was building. After breakfast, Lily disappeared upstairs to get dressed for her playdate with Noah's sister, leaving Noah and Emily alone at the kitchen table. The morning light was kinder than the harsh overhead fixtures from last night, but it also made the reality of the situation more concrete. Emily was here, in his kitchen, and they needed to figure out what came next. "So," Noah said, refilling their coffee mugs, "how are you feeling this morning?" Emily wrapped her hands around the warm ceramic, a gesture that was becoming familiar. "Better, more human, also deeply embarrassed about last night." "Don't be embarrassed. I showed up unannounced, had a breakdown in your kitchen, and imposed on your hospitality. That's textbook embarrassing." "You asked for help when you needed it," Noah corrected. "That's textbook brave." She shook her head, but he could see the ghost of a smile. "You always did have a way of reframing things." "One of my few talents." He leaned back in his chair, studying her. "What's your plan? And before you say you don't have one, I'm not asking for a 5-year strategy. Just what happens after you leave here." Emily was quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee like it might contain answers. "I don't know. I've been staying with my parents, which is its own kind of hell. My mom keeps trying to set me up with the sons of her friends, like a husband will fix everything. My dad avoids talking about it entirely because he doesn't know what to say about his daughter quitting medical school. They don't understand what happened with Marcus? I didn't tell them the whole truth, just that the relationship ended and I needed a break from residency." She laughed bitterly. "They think I'm having some kind of quarter-life crisis. Maybe I am." Noah chose his next words carefully. "What do you want? Not what your parents want or what Marcus told you that you should want. What does Emily want?" She looked at him then, really looked at him, and he saw the girl from college again, the one who'd stayed up until 3 a.m. debating the ethics of medical intervention, who'd organized fundraisers with passionate intensity, who'd known exactly who she was supposed to be. "I want to feel competent again," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want to make a decision without second-guessing myself into paralysis. I want to wake up and not immediately feel like I'm failing at everything." She paused, then added even more quietly, "I want to remember what it felt like to believe in myself." "Okay," Noah said. "That's a start." "A start to what? I can't just magically rebuild my confidence. I don't even know where to begin." "You begin with today, then tomorrow. Small steps, not giant leaps." He stood, clearing their plates. "Do you have anywhere you need to be?" Emily shook her head. "My parents think I'm job hunting in Cincinnati for a few days. I couldn't handle another morning of my mom's concerned looks and helpful suggestions." "Then stay here." She blinked at him. "What?" "Stay here. For a few days, a week, whatever you need. You don't have to be alone right now, and clearly going back to your parents' place isn't helping." Noah kept his voice matter-of-fact, not wanting to make this into something bigger than it was. "The guest room's yours. No pressure, no expectations, just a place to breathe." "Noah, I can't impose on you like that. You have Lily, you have your work." "I work from home 3 days a week and Lily's in kindergarten. The house is empty most of the day anyway." He met her eyes. "Look, I'm not saying this will solve everything, but maybe having some space away from your parents, some time to think without feeling judged, might help. And if it doesn't, you can leave whenever you want. No hard feelings." Emily's hands were shaking slightly around her coffee mug. "Why are you being so nice to me? I disappeared for 7 years. I show up out of nowhere with my problems, and you're just offering to let me stay?" "Because you'd do the same for me," Noah said simply. "Because 7 years ago, you were the person who showed up when I needed someone. And some things don't change just because time passed." He paused, then added, "And because I think you need someone in your corner right now who doesn't have an agenda. I don't need you to be anything other than who you are. That seemed to be in short supply in your life lately." Tears welled in Emily's eyes again, but this time they looked different, less like despair and more like relief. I don't deserve this kind of kindness. Everyone deserves kindness. That's kind of the whole point of being human. He dried his hands on the dish towel. So, what do you say? Want to stay in my guest room and help me prove to Lily that dragons could theoretically fly if we account for hollow bones and atmospheric density? Emily laughed through her tears. That sounds ridiculous. Wait until you see her research notes. She's very thorough. Okay, Emily said, so quietly he almost missed it. Okay, I'll stay. For a few days, if you're really sure. I'm sure. Noah glanced at the clock. My sister Rachel is picking up Lily in 20 minutes for their Saturday adventure. After that, we can run by your car and grab whatever you need. Make sure it didn't sustain any storm damage. They spent the next hour in companionable quiet, Noah catching up on work emails while Emily sat on the couch with a book from his shelf, though he noticed she spent more time staring out the window than actually reading. When Rachel arrived, a whirlwind of energy and questions that Noah deflected with practiced ease, Lily hugged Emily goodbye with the unselfconscious affection of children everywhere. I hope you feel better, Lily said seriously. Sometimes when I'm sad, I pretend I'm a superhero and I can be brave about anything. Maybe you could try that? That's excellent advice, Emily told her. Thank you. After they left, the house felt impossibly quiet. Noah found Emily standing in the living room, looking at the photos on the mantel. Lily's school pictures, snapshots of father and daughter at the zoo, the beach, the park. You're a good dad, she said without turning around. I try. Some days are better than others. She's lucky to have you, not just because you take care of her, but because you actually see her. You listen. Emily finally looked at him. Marcus never listened. Everything I said, he was already formulating his response or his correction before I finished talking. It made me stop saying things eventually. Noah felt that familiar surge of anger at a man he'd never met. That's not listening. That's waiting for your turn to talk. I should have seen it earlier. All the signs were there. Don't do that, Noah said gently. Don't blame yourself for someone else's manipulation. That's what abusers count on. Their victims thinking it was somehow their fault for not seeing through them sooner. Emily turned fully toward him, surprise evident on her face. How do you know so much about this? After Sarah left, I did a lot of reading about relationship patterns and emotional manipulation. I wanted to understand what had happened, where things went wrong. Turned out she'd been using a lot of classic manipulation tactics I hadn't recognized at the time. He shrugged. Knowledge didn't make it hurt less, but it helped me understand it wasn't a failure of character on my part. Sometimes people are just really good at hiding who they really are. Did you love her, Sarah? The question caught him off guard, but he considered it honestly. I thought I did. Looking back, I think I loved the idea of building a life with someone more than I loved who she actually was. We wanted different things, and neither of us was honest enough to admit it, until it all fell apart. He smiled ruefully. But I got Lily out of it, so I can't regret it entirely. Emily nodded slowly. I thought I loved Marcus too, but I think I was really just in love with his validation. He made me feel important, capable, special, at first. By the time he started tearing me down, I was already so invested in his approval that I couldn't see I was losing myself. And now you're working on finding yourself again, Noah said. That's not failure, Emily. That's growth. She looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite name. Gratitude mixed with something deeper, something that made his pulse quicken in a way he firmly told himself was inappropriate given the circumstances. Come on, he said, breaking the moment before it could become something neither of them was ready for. Let's go check on your car and grab your things. Then maybe we can figure out what finding yourself actually looks like in practical terms. The drive to Emily's car was short. She'd made it within 3 blocks of his house before panic had forced her to stop. The vehicle itself was fine, just sporting some debris from the storm. They drove it back to his house, and Emily retrieved a small overnight bag from the trunk. This is all you brought? Noah asked, eyeing the single bag. I left my parents' house in a hurry, grabbed what I could, and started driving. She hefted the bag. Story of my life lately, half-packed and directionless. Back at the house, Noah showed her where the washer and dryer were, gave her the Wi-Fi password, explained his general schedule. It felt strange, domestic, like they were playing house instead of actually figuring out something real and complicated. I work from home Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, he explained. Office Tuesdays and Thursdays. Lily's in school until 3:30 on weekdays. You're welcome to anything in the kitchen, and there's a desk in the guest room if you need to work on anything. Noah, stop. Emily set her bag down. You don't need to give me the house guest orientation. I'm not a client. Sorry. I go into problem-solving mode when I'm nervous. You're nervous? Terrified, he admitted. I have no idea if this is helpful or if I'm completely overstepping. I'm making it up as I go. Something in Emily's expression softened. Join the club. I've been making it up for 6 months. She sat on the edge of the guest bed. Can I ask you something? Anything. Why are you really doing this? And don't say because we were friends or because it's the right thing to do. I need the real reason. Noah leaned against the doorframe, considering how honest to be. He decided on completely. Because 7 years ago, I had feelings for you that I never acted on. We were friends and I didn't want to risk that. And then graduation happened and we lost touch and I figured I'd miss my chance. He saw her eyes widen, but pressed on. When you showed up last night, my first thought after the shock was that I'd been given a second chance. Not for romance. You've made it clear you're not in a place for that. But for friendship. For being there for someone who mattered to me. I don't want to miss that chance again. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken things. Finally, Emily spoke, her voice shaking slightly. I had feelings for you too, back then. I thought you only saw me as a friend, so I never said anything. Then you met Sarah, and I convinced myself it was just as well. We were both idiots, Noah said. Spectacular idiots, Emily agreed. A pause, then, I'm still not ready for anything, Noah. I meant what I said. I'm a mess right now. I know. I'm not asking for anything except the chance to help a friend get back on her feet. He met her eyes. Can you accept that? That this doesn't have to be complicated, it can just be what it is, old friends helping each other out? Emily nodded, relief evident in her features. Yes, I can accept that. Thank you for being honest. Always, Noah promised. Now, since Lily won't be back until dinner, and we've successfully made this appropriately awkward, want to help me figure out my grocery shopping? I never know what actual adults eat when they're not focused on convincing a 5-year-old that vegetables are good. The laugh she gave him was genuine, and Noah counted it as a victory. They spent the rest of the afternoon in easy companionship, running errands, making lunch, talking about everything and nothing. Emily told him about her parents' increasingly desperate attempts to fix her life. Noah told her about the challenges of single parenting and running a business. They didn't talk about Marcus or Sarah or the complicated feelings they'd just acknowledged. They talked like friends, and somehow that felt like exactly what they both needed. By the time Rachel dropped Lily off, chattering excitedly about the science museum and the planetarium show, Emily seemed more relaxed than she had since arriving. She listened attentively to Lily's breathless recounting of every exhibit, asking questions that showed genuine interest. And the best part, Lily announced, was the earthquake simulator. Aunt Rachel screamed, but I didn't because I'm brave. Emily, you should come with us next time and you can be brave with me. I would love that, Emily said, and Noah could tell she meant it. That night, after Lily was asleep and Emily had retreated to the guest room, Noah sat in his living room with a beer and let himself process the surreal turn his life had taken. 24 hours ago, his biggest concern was whether he'd balanced his client accounts correctly. Now Emily Martinez was sleeping in his guest room, and he'd confessed feelings he'd buried for 7 years, and somehow they were going to figure out how to be friends while navigating the minefield of their history. His phone buzzed with the text from Rachel. So who's the woman in your house, and why didn't I know about her? Noah typed back, old friend from college, going through a rough time. It's not like that. Whatever you say, little brother, but she looks at you like you hung the moon, just for your information. He stared at that message for a long time before deleting it without responding. Rachel was perceptive, but she was also wrong. Emily didn't look at him like that. She looked at him like he was safe, which was different, important, but different. A soft knock on his door made him look up. Emily stood in the hallway in pajama pants and his hoodie, looking uncertain. Can't sleep? He asked. Every time I close my eyes, my brain starts cataloging all the ways I've screwed up my life. She moved into the room, sitting on the opposite end of the couch. Tell me I'm going to be okay, even if it's a lie. It's not a lie, Noah said firmly. You're going to be okay. It might take time, and it might be hard, but you're going to figure this out. You're too stubborn not to. How do you know I'm stubborn? Because you organized an entire charity 5K during finals week junior year when anyone sensible would have just written a check. Because you learned organic chemistry out of spite when that professor said you'd never make it in medicine. Because you're still here, still fighting, even when it would be easier to give up. Emily pulled her knees up to her chest, wrapping her arms around them. What if I don't remember how to fight anymore? What if he broke that part of me? He didn't break anything, Noah said with quiet conviction. He just convinced you that you were broken. There's a difference. The fighter you were is still in there. She just needs to remember she never needed anyone's permission to exist. She rested her chin on her knees, looking at him with those eyes that had haunted his memory for 7 years. You make it sound so simple. It's not simple, but it is possible. He shifted on the couch to face her more directly. Emily, you spent years training to be a doctor. You learned how to diagnose problems, treat symptoms, help people heal. Now you need to apply those same skills to yourself. Diagnose what actually needs fixing. Treat the real issues instead of the symptoms. Give yourself time to heal. And what's the diagnosis, Dr. Carter? You're suffering from acute betrayal by someone who should have protected you, compounded by systematic erosion of self-confidence and identity. Treatment includes time, distance from toxic influences, reconnection with people who see your worth, and probably a good therapist. Emily smiled despite herself. You've really thought about this. I've had 24 hours and a lot of coffee. He returned her smile. But seriously, have you considered therapy? Not because you're broken, but because talking to a professional might help you process everything faster than figuring it out alone. I've thought about it. I just don't know if I can afford it right now without a job. There are sliding scale options, community centers, university programs. We can research it if you want. We? Emily's voice was soft. If you want help, I'm offering. If you'd rather do it yourself, that's okay too. No pressure. She was quiet for a moment, then said something that surprised them both. I don't want to do it alone anymore. I've been alone for months, and it's not working. So, yes, help me research therapists. Help me figure out what comes next. Just help me. Noah felt something shift in his chest, the weight of responsibility mixed with the lighter feeling of purpose. Okay, we'll figure it out together, but right now you need to sleep. Actual sleep, not lying in bed catastrophizing. Is that a clinical term? It's a Lily term. She catastrophizes about everything from splinters to whether the sun might explode someday. Emily laughed, standing up from the couch. At the doorway, she paused and turned back. Noah? Thank you for all of this, for seeing me instead of just my mistakes. Always, he said, and meant it with everything he had. After she left, Noah sat in the quiet house and wondered what he'd gotten himself into. He'd offered Emily a place to stay, a chance to rebuild, a friendship that might help her heal. What he hadn't mentioned was that having her here, seeing her every day, was going to test every ounce of his restraint, because 7 years hadn't diminished what he felt. If anything, seeing her vulnerable and real and fighting to find herself again only made him care more. But that was his problem to manage, not hers. She needed a friend, not someone with expectations or romantic complications. He could be that friend. He would be that friend, no matter what it cost him personally. In the guest room, Emily lay awake staring at the ceiling and thinking about Noah Carter, about his kindness, his patience, his complete lack of judgment about the mess she'd made of her life, about the fact that he'd had feelings for her 7 years ago and she'd been too blind to see it, about how different her life might have been if she'd chosen him instead of Marcus. But she couldn't think about that now, couldn't let herself fall into the fantasy of Noah as some kind of savior or solution to her problems. She needed to fix herself first, needed to remember who Emily Martinez was when she wasn't defined by someone else's expectations. Still, as she finally drifted off to sleep, her last conscious thought was how safe she felt in this house, in this space Noah had offered without hesitation or strings attached. How long it had been since she'd felt safe anywhere. And maybe, she thought drowsily, safety was exactly what she needed to begin healing. The days that followed developed a rhythm that felt both strange and natural at the same time. Emily woke each morning to the sounds of Noah getting Lily ready for school, the patient negotiations over breakfast choices, the reminders about homework, the cheerful chaos of a 5-year-old who had opinions about everything. She'd lie in the guest room listening, something in her chest aching at the tenderness in Noah's voice, the easy affection between father and daughter. By the third morning, she stopped hiding in her room until they left. Instead, she joined them for breakfast, helping Lily decide between the purple shirt or the green one, listening to detailed explanations of kindergarten social dynamics that were apparently more complex than international diplomacy. So Maya said that Sophie said that I said something mean about the blocks. But I didn't say anything mean, I just said that her tower wasn't structurally sound because the base was too narrow, Lily explained through a mouthful of cereal. That's not mean, that's just physics. Maybe Sophie doesn't like physics, Emily suggested gently. Lily looked horrified at this concept. Why wouldn't someone like physics? Physics is how everything works. Not everyone thinks like you do, Bug, Noah said, dropping a kiss on top of her head as he packed her lunch. Some people care more about feelings than structural integrity. That's silly. You can care about both. Lily turned to Emily with the absolute certainty only children possess. Right, Emily, you can care about feelings and science. You absolutely can, Emily agreed. In fact, the best doctors care about both. They understand the science of how bodies work, but they also care about how people feel. Something shifted in Lily's expression, a seriousness that seemed beyond her years. Is that what you did? When you were going to be a doctor? Emily felt Noah's eyes on her, but kept her focus on Lily. I tried to. I wanted to help kids feel better, both their bodies and their feelings. That's why I wanted to be a pediatrician. What's a pediatrician? Pediatrician, Noah corrected gently. It's a doctor just for children. Oh. Lily processed this, then asked with devastating directness, why did you stop wanting to be that? Emily glanced at Noah, who gave her a slight nod. Your call. She took a breath, choosing her words carefully. Sometimes life doesn't go the way we plan. I had some things happen that made me need to stop for a while, but that doesn't mean I stopped caring about helping people. Lily considered this with the gravity she applied to all serious matters. My daddy says that sometimes we need to rest before we can keep going. Like when I get tired on the playground but I'm not done playing yet, maybe you're just resting. The simple wisdom of it hit Emily harder than she expected. Maybe I am, she said softly. That's a really smart way to think about it. I know, Lily said without arrogance, just stating a fact. I'm very smart. Daddy says so. After Noah left to drive Lily to school, Emily found herself alone in the house with nothing but her thoughts and the entire day stretching ahead. The silence should have been peaceful. Instead, it felt like a void waiting to be filled with all the anxieties she'd been pushing away. She tried to distract herself with the list of therapists Noah had helped her compile the night before. But every time she reached for her phone to call, her hand would freeze. What would she even say? Hi, I'm a failed medical resident who let her boyfriend destroy her confidence, and now I can't make basic life decisions without spiraling? That seemed like the kind of thing you built up to, not led with. By the time Noah returned, she was pacing the living room, phone clutched in her hand, feeling like a coward. Didn't call any of them yet? He asked, reading the situation immediately. I made it as far as pulling up the first number. That's progress. He set his keys on the counter. What's stopping you? Emily laughed bitterly. Pride, mostly. The fact that calling a therapist makes it all real, makes it official that I can't handle my own life, that I need professional help to function like a normal adult. Noah moved to the coffee maker, starting a fresh pot with practiced ease. You know what I needed professional help for? Learning how to braid Lily's hair. Spent 3 weeks watching YouTube tutorials before I could do a basic plait without it looking like a bird's nest. Does that make me less of an adult? That's different. Is it? Both involve recognizing you need help with something and seeking out someone with expertise. He pulled down 2 mugs. Emily, there's no shame in therapy. Half my clients see therapists. My sister sees one. I saw one after Sarah left because I needed help processing the divorce without letting it damage how I parented Lily. She stared at him. You went to therapy? For 6 months. Best decision I made during that whole nightmare. He poured coffee, handed her a mug. Help me understand that I wasn't responsible for Sarah's choices, that I could be hurt without being broken, that asking for help wasn't weakness. He met her eyes. Sound familiar? Emily sank onto the couch, cradling the warm mug. What if I call and they can't help me? What if I'm too far gone? You're not too far gone. You're just scared. Noah sat beside her, close enough that she could feel his steadiness. And I get it. Making that call means admitting you need support, and you've spent your whole life being the person who gives support, not the one who needs it. But Emily, you can't pour from an empty cup. You've been running on empty for months. She knew he was right. Knowing didn't make it easier. Want me to sit here while you call? He offered. Moral support? You don't have to do that. I know, I'm offering anyway. So Emily made the call with Noah sitting beside her, a silent presence that somehow made it possible to push through the anxiety. The receptionist was kind, the available appointment times reasonable, the whole process far less terrifying than she'd built it up to be in her head. When she hung up, she felt simultaneously relieved and exhausted. First appointment is Thursday afternoon, she said. Good, that's good. Noah smiled at her. Proud of you. For making a phone call? That's a pretty low bar. For doing something hard even though you were scared, that's actually a pretty high bar. He stood, stretching. Now, I have client calls this afternoon, but I'm free until then. Want to help me grocery shop? Lily's convinced we need to make homemade pizza for dinner, which means I need approximately 17 ingredients I definitely don't have. The normalcy of it, grocery shopping, meal planning, the mundane rituals of daily life, felt like a gift. Emily said yes. They spent an hour wandering the supermarket, Noah consulting a list on his phone, while Emily found herself offering suggestions she hadn't realized she had opinions about. Fresh mozzarella versus shredded, whether pizza sauce needed oregano or basil, the correct ratio of vegetables to pretend they were being healthy while still letting Lily load up on pepperoni. You're good at this, Noah observed, loading pasta sauce into the cart. At grocery shopping? At being present? At engaging with normal life things without overthinking them? He selected a package of mushrooms. You've been wound so tight since you got here, but right now you seem almost relaxed. Emily realized he was right. For the past hour, she hadn't been catastrophizing about her failed career or her uncertain future. She'd been debating pizza toppings and remembering that she used to enjoy cooking, used to find joy in simple things before Marcus had made her feel like every choice needed to be optimized and every moment needed to be productive. I forgot how to do this, she said quietly. How to just exist without constantly judging whether I'm doing it right. Then we'll practice, Noah said simply. Small, normal things until they feel normal again. That afternoon, while Noah worked in his home office, Emily found herself in the kitchen actually preparing dinner without it feeling like a performance. She made the pizza dough from scratch, kneading it with a focus that quieted the anxious thoughts. When Lily came home from school, she was ready with an apron and a task. You're in charge of sauce distribution, Emily told her. It's a very important job. Lily took to it with the seriousness of a surgeon, carefully spreading sauce in precise circles while explaining her complex theories about why pizza was the perfect food because it contained all the major food groups if you added vegetables. Even though vegetables are the worst group, she confided, they're still important for not getting scurvy. Do you even know what scurvy is? Emily asked, amused. It's what pirates get when they don't eat fruits and vegetables and their teeth fall out, Lily said matter-of-factly. Daddy told me. He tells me lots of things, so I can be very educated. Noah emerged from his office to find his kitchen covered in flour and his daughter explaining the finer points of nutritional science to Emily, who was listening with the same attention she'd probably once given to medical lectures. This is either going really well or really badly, he said, surveying the chaos. Really well, Emily assured him. Your daughter is teaching me about scurvy prevention through pizza. That sounds exactly like something she would do. He rolled up his sleeves. What can I do to help? They worked together, the three of them, assembling personalized pizzas. Lily's with careful patterns of pepperoni, Noah's loaded with vegetables he claimed to like, but Emily suspected he was just modeling good behavior, and Emily's a simple margarita that reminded her of the semester she'd studied abroad in Italy, back when the world had felt full of possibility. Over dinner, Lily dominated the conversation with stories from school, but Emily noticed the way Noah watched her, not with pity or concern, but with something warmer, something that made her feel seen in a way she hadn't felt in years. When their eyes met across the table and he smiled, she felt it in her chest, a flutter of something she firmly told herself was just gratitude. After Lily was in bed, Noah found Emily on the back porch, wrapped in a blanket and staring at the stars. He handed her a beer and sat down beside her on the steps. "You were good with her today," he said. "She's easy to be good with. She's an amazing kid, Noah. You should be proud." "I am, though I can't take all the credit. She came out of the womb with opinions, and I've just been trying to keep up ever since." He took a sip of his beer. "She likes you. Asked me tonight if you were going to stay forever." Emily's heart skipped. "What did you tell her?" "That you're staying as long as you need to, and when you're ready to go, that'll be okay too." He glanced at her. "That's still the arrangement, right? No pressure?" "Right," Emily said, but something in her chest twisted at the thought of leaving. She'd been here less than a week, and already this place felt more like home than anywhere had in months. The thought of going back to her parents' house, to the weight of their expectations and disappointment, felt impossible. "Can I ask you something?" Noah said after a moment. "Anything." "What did you love about medicine? Before everything went wrong, what made you want to be a doctor?" The question caught her off guard. No one had asked her that in so long. Marcus had only ever critiqued her technique, her decisions, her perceived inadequacies. Her parents had focused on the prestige and the practicality, but the love, the passion that had driven her through endless nights of studying and grueling rotations, no one had asked about that. "I loved the puzzle of it," she said slowly, the memories surfacing. Every patient was a mystery to solve, clues to gather, a diagnosis to reach. But it wasn't just intellectual, it was personal. Every diagnosis meant helping someone feel better, easing pain, giving answers. She paused, remembering. "I loved being there for people on their worst days and helping them find their way to better ones. I loved that moment when a treatment worked and you could see the relief in their eyes." "That's beautiful," Noah said quietly. "Marcus said I was too emotional about it, that good doctors maintain distance, that caring too much clouds judgment." Emily laughed bitterly. "Maybe he was right. Maybe I wasn't cut out for it after all. Or maybe he was wrong, and you were exactly right." Noah shifted to face her more fully. "Emily, medicine needs doctors who care, who see patients as people, not just cases. What you described isn't a weakness, it's a gift. A gift that I walked away from. A gift you temporarily set down because someone convinced you it was a burden." He held her gaze. "That doesn't mean it's gone. It means you needed to protect it until you were strong enough to pick it up again." Emily felt tears threatening and blinked them back. "You make it sound so simple, like I can just decide to go back. I quit my residency, Noah. I burned that bridge completely. Even if I wanted to return to medicine, I don't know if it's possible. Maybe not the same path, but there are other paths, other ways to use your training and your gifts." He set down his beer. "Look, I'm not saying you need to have all the answers right now. I'm just saying don't let Marcus's voice in your head be the one that decides what you're capable of. That's giving him way too much power over your future." They sat in silence for a while, the night sounds of suburban Ohio filling the space between them. Crickets, distant traffic, a dog barking somewhere down the street. Emily let herself lean slightly against Noah's shoulder, felt him adjust to support her weight without making it awkward. "Thank you," she said eventually, "for this, for giving me space to figure things out without judgment." "You're welcome. Though I'm definitely judging your pizza-making skills. That dough was impressive." She laughed, the sound surprising her. "I stress bake, or stress cook. It's one of my few coping mechanisms that doesn't involve hiding under blankets and pretending the world doesn't exist." "Hey, I'm not knocking hiding under blankets. Some days that's a valid strategy." He stood, offering her his hand. "But tomorrow we're trying the engaging with the world strategy again. Sound good?" She took his hand, let him pull her to her feet. They stood there for a moment, hands still linked, and Emily felt the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. the feelings he'd admitted to, the attraction she was trying very hard not to acknowledge, the complicated reality that she was broken and healing and in no position to be anything other than a friend who needed help. Noah seemed to feel it too, because he squeezed her hand once and then let go, stepping back to a safer distance. "Good night, Emily," he said. "Good night, Noah." Inside, they went to their separate rooms, and Emily lay awake thinking about pizza dough and patient care and the way Noah looked at her like she was someone worth believing in. She thought about her first therapy appointment in 2 days, about the terrifying prospect of unpacking everything that had happened with Marcus, about whether she'd ever be able to trust her own judgment again. But she also thought about how she'd made it through an entire day without spiraling, how Lily's easy affection had felt like a balm, how Noah's steady presence was teaching her that not everyone wanted to tear her down or remake her into something else. The next morning brought rain again, but this time Emily didn't feel the urge to run. She came downstairs to find Noah already in the kitchen, Lily at the table working on a very serious drawing. "It's a map," Lily explained without preamble, "of all the places I want to go when I'm a grown-up. This is Antarctica because penguins, and this is Japan because robots, and this is... Emily, where's a good place that has really old buildings?" "Rome," Emily said, pouring herself coffee. "Or Athens. Or Istanbul. Lots of places have really old buildings." "I need to make my map bigger," Lily declared, already reaching for more paper. Noah caught Emily's eye and smiled, and she smiled back, feeling something settle in her chest. This was nice. This simple morning routine, this easy companionship, this feeling of being part of something instead of always being on the outside looking in. When Noah left to take Lily to school, Emily made a decision. She opened her laptop and started researching, not just therapists this time, but options for returning to medicine. Refresher courses for doctors who'd taken time off. Alternative paths that didn't require completing a traditional residency. Public health programs. Medical writing. Healthcare consulting. The possibilities were overwhelming, but also strangely comforting. The path forward wasn't singular. There were options, variations, ways to use her training that didn't require her to be the person Marcus had tried to make her into. She was deep in research when her phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but something made her answer. "Emily, it's Dr. Patricia Chen. I don't know if you remember me. I taught your pathology course in medical school." Emily's heart jumped. Dr. Chen had been one of her favorite professors, demanding but fair, passionate about teaching. "Of course I remember you. How did you get my number?" "I've been trying to track you down for weeks. One of my former colleagues mentioned you'd left your residency program, and I wanted to reach out." A pause. "Emily, I'm starting a community health initiative in Columbus. We're focusing on underserved populations, providing basic medical care and health education. I need someone with your skills and your heart. Would you be interested in talking about it?" Emily's hand shook. "I'm not sure I'm ready to practice medicine again. I left my residency, and I don't know if I can..." "I'm not asking you to jump back into full clinical practice," Dr. Chen interrupted gently. "I'm asking if you want to help me build something meaningful. Use your training to make a real difference. No pressure, no judgment about the path that brought you here. Just an opportunity to remember why you fell in love with medicine in the first place." After she hung up, Emily sat staring at her phone for a long time. When Noah came home, she was still sitting there, her coffee cold beside her. "What happened?" he asked, immediately concerned. "I got a job offer, kind of. A former professor wants me to help with a community health project." She looked up at him, fear and hope warring in her expression. "Noah, I don't know if I can do this. What if I mess it up? What if I'm not ready?" He sat down beside her, took her shaking hands in his. "What if you are ready? What if this is exactly what you need?" "I'm terrified." "Good. Doing scary things means you're growing." He squeezed her hands. "But you don't have to decide right now. You can take time, think about it, talk it through in therapy. Whatever you need." Emily looked at their joined hands, at the solid steadiness of Noah Carter, who'd given her shelter when she had nowhere else to go, who believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. "Will you come with me? To meet Dr. Chen? I don't think I can do it alone." "Of course," he said without hesitation. "Whatever you need." That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Dr. Chen's offer, about the possibility of returning to medicine in a way that felt meaningful instead of terrifying. She thought about the patients she could help, the difference she could make, the chance to remember who she'd been before Marcus had convinced her she was fundamentally inadequate. Around midnight, she gave up on sleep and padded down the hallway, intending to make tea. But she found herself stopping at Noah's door instead, her hand raised to knock before she could talk herself out of it. He answered quickly, dressed in sleep pants and a t-shirt, his hair disheveled. "Emily? Are you okay? Can I come in?" He stepped back wordlessly, and she entered his room for the first time. It was neat, organized, exactly what she'd expected. Books stacked on the nightstand, a framed photo of Lily on the dresser, everything in its place. "I can't stop thinking," she said, wrapping her arms around herself. "About the job offer, about therapy tomorrow, about everything. My brain won't shut off." Noah sat on the edge of his bed, regarding her with patient concern. "What do you need?" "I don't know. Company, maybe? Someone to tell me I'm not crazy for even considering going back to medicine after everything that happened?" "You're not crazy. You're hopeful, which is different." He patted the space beside him. "Sit. Talk to me." So she sat, and the words spilled out. Her fears about failing again, her doubts about her own competence, her terror that Marcus had been right about everything. Noah listened without interrupting, without trying to fix or minimize, just listening until she ran out of words. "Can I tell you what I think?" he asked when she finally fell silent. She nodded. "I think you're stronger than you know. I think Marcus was threatened by your competence, not disappointed by your inadequacy. I think you're meant to help people, and walking away from that is killing you slowly." He shifted to face her fully. "And I think you know all of this already. You just need permission to believe it." Emily felt something crack open in her chest, some wall she'd built to protect herself from more hurt. "What if I fail?" "What if you succeed?" Noah countered. "What if you're amazing at this and you help hundreds of people and you remember why you loved medicine in the first place? You have a lot of faith in someone you haven't seen in 7 years. I have faith in the person I knew then and the person I'm seeing now. They're the same Emily, just one who's been hurt and is learning to heal." He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear in a gesture so gentle it made her ache. "You're going to be okay. Better than okay. You just need to give yourself permission to try." They sat there in the quiet of his room, the house asleep around them, and Emily felt something shift. Not the fear disappearing, that was still there, probably always would be, but something new emerging alongside it, something that felt like possibility. "Noah?" she said quietly. "Yeah? Is your bed big enough for 2? The question hung in the air, loaded with meaning and memory and 7 years of what-ifs. Noah's eyes widened slightly, and she saw him processing the question, deciding how to answer. "Only if you're the one beside me," he said finally, his voice rough with honesty. Emily's breath caught. "I'm not ready for... I can't..." "I know," he interrupted gently. "I'm not asking for anything except your presence. If you need company, if you need to not be alone right now, then stay. No expectations, no pressure, just 2 friends who've both been through hell and are trying to figure out what comes next." She studied his face, looking for any sign of ulterior motive, any hint of the manipulation she'd learned to recognize from Marcus. But there was only sincerity, only Noah being exactly who he'd always been, steady, honest, safe. "Okay," she whispered. They lay down side by side, maintaining careful space between them, both staring at the ceiling. Emily could hear Noah's breathing, feel the warmth of him beside her, and for the first time in months, she felt the anxiety in her chest begin to ease. "Thank you," she said into the darkness. "For what?" "For not making this weird, for just letting it be what it is." "What is it?" Noah asked. Emily thought about that. 2 people who care about each other, finding comfort in presence. That's all. That's enough. "Yeah," Noah agreed softly. "That's enough." They fell asleep like that, side by side in the quiet darkness, 2 broken people learning that sometimes healing begins with simply not being alone. Morning arrived with soft gray light filtering through Noah's bedroom curtains, and Emily woke to find herself curled on her side facing him, their hands nearly touching in the space between them. Noah was still asleep, His face relaxed in a way it never was during waking hours when he was managing a business and raising a daughter, and apparently now also helping broken doctors remember how to be human. She watched him for a moment, studying the face that had become so familiar again so quickly. There were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there in college, silver threading through his hair at the temples. He'd grown into himself in the years since they'd last seen each other, shed whatever uncertainty he'd carried as a student, and become someone solid, someone you could lean on without worrying he'd crumble under the weight. Emily slipped out of bed carefully, not wanting to wake him, and padded back to her own room. She had her first therapy appointment in 6 hours, and the meeting with Dr. Chen tomorrow, and suddenly the thought of both felt less terrifying than it had yesterday. Something about falling asleep next to someone who saw your worst and still chose to stay, not because they wanted to fix you or change you, but simply because they cared, had shifted something fundamental inside her. When she came downstairs, she found Lily already awake and sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of books about space exploration, taking notes in her careful kindergarten handwriting. "You're up early," Emily said, starting the coffee maker. "I have to finish my research about Mars before school," Lily explained seriously. "I'm giving a presentation about why we should go there, even though it's really far away and kind of scary." "That sounds like an important presentation." "It is. Daddy says the best way to not be scared of something is to learn everything about it. So I'm learning everything about Mars." She looked up, her expression thoughtful. "Are you scared of something, Emily? Is that why you're here learning things with us?" The question was so direct, so innocently perceptive, that Emily had to take a moment before answering. "Yes, I'm scared of a lot of things right now." "Like what?" "Like whether I'm good enough at the things I used to be good at. Like whether I can help people the way I want to. Like whether I'm brave enough to try again after I failed." Lily considered this with the seriousness she applied to all important matters. "My daddy says that trying again after you fail is the actual definition of bravery. Not trying the first time, that's just doing something, but trying again when you know it might hurt? That's brave." Emily felt her throat tighten. "Your daddy is very wise." "I know, he reads a lot of books." Lily returned to her Mars notes, then added without looking up, "I'm glad you're staying with us. The house is less lonely when you're here." Before Emily could respond, Noah appeared in the doorway, his hair still messy from sleep, wearing the same t-shirt he'd had on last night. Their eyes met across the kitchen and something passed between them, acknowledgement of the intimacy they'd shared, understanding that it had meant something even if neither of them was ready to name what. "Morning," he said, his voice still rough with sleep. "Morning. I made coffee." "You're a saint." He moved to pour himself a cup, then sat down beside Lily to review her Mars research. "This is really good work, Bug. Your teacher is going to be impressed." "I know, I'm very thorough." She pointed to a particular note. "Did you know that a day on Mars is almost the same as a day on Earth? It's only 40 minutes longer. We could probably adjust." "Probably," Noah agreed, catching Emily's eye with an amused smile. The morning routine continued around them. Breakfast, teeth brushing, the daily negotiation over whether Lily needed a jacket, even though it wasn't that cold, the gathering of backpack and lunch and homework. Emily watched it all, feeling like she was seeing a glimpse of a life she hadn't known she wanted until it was right in front of her. After Noah left to drive Lily to school, Emily showered and dressed with more care than she had in months. Her therapy appointment was at 2, and she wanted to look like someone who had their life together, even if it was a complete fiction. She chose jeans and a simple sweater, tied her hair back, put on minimal makeup. The woman in the mirror looked almost normal, almost like someone who wasn't falling apart. Noah found her standing in front of the mirror when he returned, staring at her reflection like it might reveal something she was missing. "You look great," he said from the doorway. "I look terrified." "That too, but mostly great." He moved into the room, standing beside her so they were both reflected in the mirror. "You ready for this?" "No, but I'm going anyway." "That's the spirit." He checked his watch. "I've cleared my afternoon. I'll drive you there, wait in the car if you want privacy, or come in if you need support. Your call." Emily turned to face him directly. "You've already done so much. You don't have to." "I know I don't have to. I want to." He held her gaze. Emily, you showed up on my doorstep asking for help. Let me actually help. So she did. They drove to the therapy office in comfortable silence, Noah's presence beside her the only thing keeping her from spiraling into panic. The office was in a modest building downtown, the waiting room decorated in soothing blues and greens that were probably meant to be calming, but just reminded Emily of hospital corridors. "I'll be right here," Noah said, settling into one of the waiting room chairs with his laptop. "Take your time." The therapist, Dr. Sarah Ramos, was younger than Emily expected, maybe early 40s, with kind eyes and an easy manner that immediately put her slightly at ease. Her office was warm, filled with books and plants, a space that felt lived in rather than clinical. "So, Emily," Dr. Ramos said once they'd settled into their respective chairs, "tell me what brings you here." And Emily did. Haltingly at first, then with increasing fluidity, she told the whole story. Medical school, the promise and passion she'd felt, meeting Marcus, the slow erosion of her confidence, the mistakes that had compounded until she couldn't function, the decision to quit that had felt like both failure and survival. She talked about her parents' disappointment, about feeling lost and directionless, about showing up at Noah's house in the middle of a storm because she'd run out of other options. Dr. Ramos listened without interruption, taking occasional notes, her expression neutral but engaged. When Emily finally ran out of words, the therapist was quiet for a moment before speaking. "That took a lot of courage to share," she said. "Thank you for trusting me with it." "I don't feel very courageous. I feel like I ran away from everything." "You removed yourself from an abusive situation and sought help. That's not running away. That's survival." Dr. Ramos leaned forward slightly. "Emily, what you've described is a textbook case of emotional abuse and coercive control. Your boyfriend systematically undermined your confidence, isolated you from your support system, and convinced you that his perception of you was reality. None of that is your fault." "But I let it happen. I stayed. I believed him when he said I was incompetent." "Because that's what abusers do. They're very good at making their victims believe the abuse is deserved." Dr. Ramos's voice was gentle but firm. "You were in a vulnerable position. He was in a position of power, and he exploited that. You didn't let it happen. It happened to you." Emily felt tears burning behind her eyes. "I used to be so confident. I used to trust my own judgment. How do I get that back?" "Slowly, with support, by practicing making decisions and learning to trust yourself again." The therapist smiled. "Tell me about this friend whose house you're staying at. Noah, right?" Emily nodded and found herself smiling despite the tears. "He's been amazing, patient and kind, and he doesn't expect anything from me except that I try to take care of myself. That's significant. You've surrounded yourself with someone who supports you without controlling you. That's already a huge step toward healing." They talked for the full 50 minutes, Dr. Ramos asking questions that made Emily think, offering perspectives that reframed experiences she'd been carrying as personal failures. By the time the session ended, Emily felt wrung out, but also strangely lighter, like she'd set down a weight she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. Noah looked up from his laptop when she emerged, reading her face immediately. "How'd it go?" "Hard, but good, I think." Emily sank into the chair beside him. "She wants to see me twice a week for a while." "That seems reasonable." "Noah, I can't keep imposing on you like this. The guest room, the meals, now driving me to therapy. You're not imposing. You're accepting help from someone who cares about you." He closed his laptop. "Unless you want to leave? If you'd rather go back to your parents' place, I understand." "No," Emily said quickly, surprising herself with the vehemence. "No, I don't want to leave. I just don't want you to feel obligated." "I don't feel obligated. I feel grateful." "For what?" Noah considered his answer carefully. "For the chance to be there for someone I care about. For Lily getting to see what it looks like to help someone who needs it. For remembering that my life has room in it for more than just routine and responsibility." He met her eyes. "You showing up reminded me that I'm still capable of letting people in. That's worth something." Before Emily could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Chen confirming their meeting for tomorrow morning. The reality of it hit her again. The possibility of returning to medicine, of using her training, of being useful instead of broken. I'm meeting with Dr. Chen at 10 tomorrow, she said. Will you really come with me? Already put it on my calendar. Noah stood, offering her his hand. Come on, let's go home. I promised Lily we'd help her practice her Mars presentation tonight, and something tells me she's going to want your medical expertise on whether humans can actually survive the trip. Home. He'd said it so casually, like it was a given that his house had become her home too. Emily took his hand and let him pull her up, and they walked out into the afternoon sunshine together. That evening, Lily's Mars presentation turned into an elaborate dinner discussion about space travel, human physiology, and whether freeze-dried ice cream actually tasted good or if astronauts just pretended to like it. Emily found herself engaged in a way she hadn't been in months, using her medical knowledge to explain things like bone density loss in zero gravity and the effects of radiation exposure. So we'd need really good shielding and probably artificial gravity, Lily concluded, taking notes. That's going to be expensive. Very expensive, Noah agreed, but sometimes the important things are worth the cost. After Lily went to bed, Noah and Emily found themselves in their now familiar spot on the back porch, the night air cool against their skin. Your daughter is going to run NASA someday, Emily said. Either that or she's going to be a benevolent dictator who rules through the power of irrefutable logic. Noah smiled. I can live with either option. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the night sounds. Finally, Emily spoke what had been on her mind all afternoon. Dr. Ramos said that I need to practice trusting my own judgment again, making decisions and learning that I can be right, that my instincts aren't fundamentally flawed. That makes sense? So I'm making a decision right now, and I need you to let me make it without trying to talk me out of it or fix it. Noah turned to look at her, his expression cautious. Okay. I'm going to take the meeting with Dr. Chen tomorrow. And if she offers me a position with her community health project, I'm going to say yes. Emily took a shaky breath. I'm terrified. I think there's a very real chance I'll fail spectacularly, but I need to try. I need to know if I can still do this, if I can still be the person who helps people instead of the person who falls apart. That's a good decision, Noah said quietly. You're not going to argue with me? Tell me to wait until I'm more healed or more ready? No, because I think you're exactly ready enough, not perfectly ready. That's not a real thing, but ready enough to take the next step. He reached over, took her hand, and whatever happens, whether it goes great or it's hard or you decide medicine isn't for you after all, I'll be here. You're not alone in this. Emily squeezed his hand, feeling the solid warmth of him, the steadiness that had become her anchor. When did you get so wise? Single parenthood is basically a crash course in crisis management and emotional intelligence. I learned or I drowned. He smiled. Plus, I read a lot of parenting books. Turns out most of that advice works for all relationships, not just parent-child ones. What do the parenting books say about friends who sleep in the same bed because one of them can't quiet their anxious brain alone? The question hung between them, addressing what they'd been carefully not talking about since this morning. The parenting books are suspiciously quiet on that particular scenario, Noah said, his tone light but his eyes serious. What do you think about it? Emily was quiet for a long moment, trying to find words for something she barely understood herself. I think it helped. I think I slept better than I have in months. I think it felt safe in a way nothing else has lately. She paused, then added more quietly, I think I want to do it again, but I'm scared of what that means. What are you scared it means? That I'm using you for comfort without being able to give you anything back. That I'm taking advantage of your kindness because I'm too broken to offer anything real. That I'm going to hurt you when I finally get my life together and realize I needed you for stability, but don't actually want you for anything more. The words tumbled out, all the fears she'd been cataloging since last night. Noah was quiet for so long that Emily started to panic, worried she'd said too much, revealed too much. But when he finally spoke, his voice was steady and sure. First, you're not using me. I made the offer freely and I meant what I said, no expectations. Second, you're not too broken to give anything back. You've brought life into this house, shown Lily what it looks like to be vulnerable and ask for help, reminded me that I'm capable of caring about more than just my daughter and my business. That's not nothing. He turned to face her fully. And third, if you eventually decide you don't want more than friendship, that's okay too. I'd rather have you in my life as a friend than not have you at all. You say that now, but what if, Emily? His voice was gentle but firm. Stop catastrophizing. We're not making lifetime decisions here. We're making tonight decisions. Do you want company tonight, or do you want to sleep alone? She met his eyes in the darkness, saw nothing but sincerity and patience and something deeper that made her chest ache. Company. I want company. Then that's what you'll have. Simple as that. But it wasn't simple, Emily thought as they went inside and locked up the house for the night. It wasn't simple at all, because every night she spent in Noah's bed, every morning she woke up to find him beside her, every moment of casual intimacy and shared space, she was becoming more attached to this life he'd built. She was starting to imagine staying, starting to picture a future that included this house and this man and his remarkable daughter, and that was terrifying because she still didn't trust herself to know what she wanted. Marcus had spent 2 years convincing her that her wants were wrong, her instincts flawed, her judgment compromised. How was she supposed to trust that what she felt for Noah was real and not just gratitude wrapped in dependency? That night, they lay in Noah's bed again, maintaining their careful distance, even as Emily longed to close the gap between them. She could hear his breathing, feel the warmth of him, sense his awareness of her. The tension was different than it had been the night before, charged with possibility and restraint in equal measure. "Noah?" she whispered into the darkness. "Yeah. Thank you for being patient with me, for not pushing for more than I can give. I'm not being patient. I'm being present. There's a difference." He shifted slightly, and she felt rather than saw him turn toward her. "Emily, I'm not waiting for you to become someone different or more whole or whatever you think you need to be before you're worthy of care. I'm here because I want to be, exactly as things are right now." She felt tears slip down her temples into her hair. "I don't know what I did to deserve you." "You don't have to deserve basic human kindness. You just have to accept it." They fell asleep like that, and Emily dreamed of hospitals and patients and the feeling of competence she'd lost. But this time in the dream, Noah was there, a steady presence that kept her grounded when everything else felt uncertain. Morning came too quickly. Emily woke to find sunlight streaming through the windows and Noah already gone from the bed. She could hear him downstairs with Lily, the familiar sounds of breakfast preparation and morning negotiations. For just a moment, she let herself lie there and imagine this was her life. Waking up in this house, being part of this family, having a place where she belonged. Then reality crashed back in. Today was the meeting with Dr. Chen. Today, she'd have to decide if she was brave enough to try medicine again, if she could trust herself to help patients without second-guessing every decision into paralysis. She found Noah and Lily in the kitchen, both looking at her with matching expressions of encouragement that would have been funny if Emily wasn't so nervous. "Big day," Lily announced. "Daddy said you have an important meeting about helping people." "That's right." "Are you scared?" Emily glanced at Noah, who gave her a slight nod. "Your call." She sat down at the table beside Lily. "Yes, I'm very scared." "But you're doing it anyway?" "Yes." "Then you're brave. That's what brave means, being scared but doing the thing anyway." Lily returned to her cereal with complete confidence in this assessment. Noah caught Emily's eye across the table and mouthed, "She's not wrong." After they dropped Lily at school, Noah drove Emily to the coffee shop where they were meeting Dr. Chen. Emily's hands were shaking so badly she had to clasp them together in her lap. "What if I freeze up?" she said. "What if she asks me medical questions and I can't remember anything? What if I say yes and then I fail again?" "Then you'll handle it. One way or another, you'll handle it." Noah pulled into a parking space and turned to face her. "But Emily, what if you don't fail? What if you're amazing at this? What if this is exactly what you need to remember who you are?" She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that she could do this, that Marcus had been wrong, that her judgment and skills were still intact somewhere under all the damage. But wanting to believe and actually believing were two very different things. "Will you come in with me?" she asked, hating how small her voice sounded. "As far as you want me to. I can sit at a different table, give you privacy, or I can sit right beside you, whatever you need." "Beside me?" Please. They walked into the coffee shop together, and Emily immediately spotted Dr. Chen at a corner table. Older now, her hair graying at the temples, but still with the sharp, intelligent eyes Emily remembered from medical school. The professor stood when she saw them, her face breaking into a warm smile. Emily, it's so good to see you. She pulled Emily into a brief hug, then turned to Noah with professional interest. And you are? Noah Carter. I'm a friend of Emily's. She asked me to come along for moral support. Smart, Dr. Chen said approvingly. Having support is crucial. Please, both of you sit. They ordered coffee, Emily's hand still shaking too much to hold the cup steady, and Dr. Chen launched into her pitch with the same passionate intensity Emily remembered from her lectures. I'm building something I should have built years ago, she explained. A community health clinic focusing on populations that fall through the cracks of traditional healthcare. Uninsured families, homeless individuals, immigrants who don't speak English, people who can't afford to miss work for doctor's appointments. We'll offer basic primary care, health education, referrals to specialists, and coordination with social services. Emily felt something stir in her chest, the old passion, the reason she'd wanted to be a doctor in the first place. That sounds incredible. It's necessary, and it's going to be hard work with limited resources and no glory. Dr. Chen fixed her with that intense gaze. I need someone who cares more about impact than prestige. Someone with strong clinical skills, but also empathy and cultural competence. Someone who isn't afraid to get their hands dirty. She paused. I heard you left your residency. I don't care why. I care that you're one of the most naturally gifted diagnosticians I ever taught, and you actually give a damn about patients as people. That's what I need. Doctor Chen, I appreciate the offer, but I don't know if I'm capable of clinical practice anymore. I made mistakes, serious ones. I don't trust my judgment. Tell me about the mistakes. So Emily did, laying out the cases where she'd second-guessed herself into errors, the diagnoses she'd missed because she was so anxious about being wrong. Dr. Chen listened carefully, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When Emily finished, the professor was quiet for a moment. Then she said something Emily hadn't expected. Those weren't mistakes of competence, they were mistakes of confidence. And Emily, every single one of those cases, you made the right call initially. Your first instinct was correct. You only went wrong when you let someone else's voice override your own judgment. Dr. Chen leaned forward. You're not incompetent. You're traumatized. There's a difference, and it's treatable. Emily felt Noah's hand find hers under the table, squeezing gently. I'm in therapy, she said quietly, trying to work through it, but I don't know how long it will take. Then we'll work with where you are now. Start slow, health education, basic screenings, patient intake. Build your confidence back up with low-stakes interactions. When you're ready, we move to more complex cases. No pressure, no judgment. Dr. Chen smiled. Emily, I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to show up and try. Can you do that? Emily looked at Noah, who nodded slightly. Your decision. She thought about Lily's simple wisdom about bravery being scared but doing it anyway. She thought about Dr. Ramos saying she needed to practice trusting herself. She thought about the person she'd been before Marcus, the doctor who'd believed she could make a difference. Yes, she said, her voice stronger than she felt. Yes, I can do that. Dr. Chen's smile was brilliant. Excellent. We start next week. I'll email you the details, training schedule, clinic hours, all of it. Welcome back to medicine, Dr. Martinez. After Dr. Chen left, Emily and Noah sat in the coffee shop in stunned silence. I just agreed to go back to medicine, Emily said, the reality of it hitting her. You did. What if I can't do it? What if I fail? Noah turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. Then you'll try again, or you'll try something else. But Emily, you just did the hardest part. You chose to try. Everything else is just showing up and doing your best. She wanted to argue, to list all the ways this could go wrong. But looking at Noah's steady confidence, feeling the solid warmth of his hands around hers, she felt something else rise up, a tiny spark of belief. Maybe she could do this. Maybe she was still the person who cared about helping people. who had the skills and knowledge to make a difference. Maybe Marcus had been wrong, and she had been right all along. "Thank you for coming with me," she said. "Always," Noah replied, and Emily believed him. They drove home in contemplative silence, and when they pulled into the driveway, Emily made another decision. She turned to Noah before they got out of the car. "I want to stay. Not just for a few more days, really stay. At least through getting started with Dr. Chen's clinic, getting my feet back under me." She took a breath. "If that's okay with you." Noah's smile was slow and genuine. "That's more than okay. That's perfect." And for the first time in months, Emily felt like maybe, just maybe, things actually might be. The next 3 weeks unfolded in a rhythm that felt both new and achingly familiar. Emily started at Dr. Chen's clinic with simple tasks: intake forms, blood pressure checks, basic health education sessions with patients who spoke little English and trusted the healthcare system even less. She fumbled through the first few days, her hands shaking when she took vital signs, her mind going blank when patients asked simple questions. But slowly, incrementally, something began to shift. She remembered things. The way to put a nervous patient at ease with a warm smile and steady hands. The questions to ask that revealed more than just symptoms. The balance between clinical efficiency and genuine human connection. It came back piece by piece, like muscle memory awakening after a long sleep. Noah was there through all of it. He listened to her anxious debriefs after each shift, celebrated her small victories, reminded her that progress wasn't linear when she had setbacks. He never once suggested she was doing too much too soon, never questioned her judgment, never made her feel like her struggles were burdensome. He just showed up, day after day, exactly as he'd promised. And every night, Emily slept in his bed beside him, the careful distance between them both a comfort and a growing frustration. Because something was changing beyond her professional confidence. Something in the way she looked at Noah over morning coffee, the way her heart lifted when he smiled at her, the way she found herself wanting to close the gap between them and knowing she wasn't ready, might never be ready, to risk destroying the safety he'd given her. On a Tuesday evening, 3 weeks into her work at the clinic, Emily came home to find Lily at the kitchen table surrounded by construction paper and markers, working on what appeared to be a very elaborate card. "What are you making?" Emily asked, setting down her bag. "It's a welcome home card for you," Lily explained. "Because you've been here for almost a whole month, and that means you're not just visiting anymore, you're actually part of our family. So I'm making it official." Emily felt her throat tighten. "Lily, that's so sweet." "I know, I'm very thoughtful." She held up the card, which featured a drawing of 3 stick figures labeled Daddy, Lily, and Emily, all holding hands in front of a house. "See? That's us. We're a team now." Noah appeared in the doorway, flour dusting his shirt from whatever he was cooking. His eyes met Emily's over Lily's head, a question in them. "Is this okay?" Emily nodded, not trusting her voice. "Dinner's almost ready," Noah said. "Chicken stir-fry, your favorite." It was her favorite. He'd learned that and dozens of other small preferences over the past weeks. How she took her coffee, that she liked reading in the morning before anyone else was awake, that she got quiet when she was processing something difficult and just needed space to think. He'd learned her the way he'd probably learned Sarah once, the way he learned his clients and his daughter, with patient attention to detail that made her feel truly seen. Over dinner, Lily dominated the conversation with stories about a classroom debate over whether dinosaurs could have been purple, but Emily caught Noah watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. When Lily finally went upstairs to read before bed, he started clearing the table with unusual intensity. "Everything okay?" Emily asked, helping him load the dishwasher. "Yeah, no, maybe." He set down the dish he was holding. "Can we talk after Lily's asleep?" Emily's stomach dropped. "That sounds ominous." "It's not. I hope. I just need to say some things, and I'd rather say them without an audience." So Emily waited, anxiety building, while Noah went through the bedtime routine with Lily. She heard him reading the nightly story, heard Lily's questions and protests about needing just 5 more minutes, heard the eventual surrender to sleep. And then Noah was coming back downstairs, his expression serious in a way that made Emily's heart race. They sat on the couch, the same spot where they'd spent countless evenings talking, and Noah turned to face her fully. I need to be honest with you about something, he said. Okay? This arrangement we have, you staying here, us sleeping in the same bed, all of it, it's not sustainable for me. Not the way it is now. He held up a hand when Emily started to speak. Let me finish. I told you I didn't have expectations, and I meant it. But Emily, I'm falling for you. More accurately, I've already fallen for you. Probably fell for you 7 years ago and never really stopped. And every day you're here, every night I fall asleep beside you, it gets harder to pretend I'm okay with just friendship. Emily felt like all the air had left the room. Noah, I'm not asking you for anything, he continued quickly. I'm just telling you the truth because you deserve honesty. You need to know that when I look at you, I see someone I could build a life with, someone I want to build a life with. And I can keep that to myself and be your friend if that's all you want, but I can't keep sleeping beside you night after night without acknowledging that it means something different to me than it might to you. What are you saying, that I need to leave? No, I'm saying I need you to decide what you want from me. From this, he gestured between them. If you want friendship and safe harbor while you get back on your feet, I can do that. But then I need to actually be your friend, which means not blurring the lines by sharing a bed. If you want something more, he stopped, took a breath. If you want to explore what this could be between us, then I'm all in. But I need to know where we stand. Emily stared at him, her mind racing. Part of her wanted to run, to protect herself from the risk of another relationship, another chance to be hurt and disappointed and diminished. But a bigger part, the part that had been slowly healing over the past month, knew that Noah wasn't Marcus. Noah was steady and honest and patient. Noah saw her clearly and still chose her anyway. I'm scared, she said finally. I know. What if I'm not ready? What if I hurt you because I'm still figuring out who I am? Then we'll figure it out together. Noah reached for her hand. Emily, I'm not asking for perfect. I'm not asking for you to have all your shit together before you're worthy of being loved. I'm asking if you feel something for me beyond gratitude and friendship, because if you do, I want to explore that. And if you don't, I need to know so I can adjust my expectations. Emily looked at their joined hands, thinking about all the nights she'd fallen asleep beside him, all the mornings she'd woken up grateful he was there, all the moments when his smile had made her chest warm and his touch had made her feel safe and wanted and seen. She thought about Lily's card with its 3 stick figures, about the life they'd built together in these past weeks, about the future she'd been afraid to let herself imagine. I feel something, she said quietly. I've been trying not to because I was scared of screwing this up, scared I was using you as a replacement for therapy or a shortcut to healing. But Noah, when I look at you, I don't see a savior or a solution. I see someone who makes me want to be brave enough to try. Try what? She met his eyes. Try trusting myself again. Try believing I deserve good things. Try loving someone who actually sees me instead of some version of me they want to create. She paused. Try loving you. Noah's eyes widened. Emily, I'm not saying I'm ready for some big declaration or that I have this all figured out. I'm still in therapy, still rebuilding my confidence, still figuring out who I am outside of who Marcus tried to make me. But I'm saying I want to try. With you. If you're willing to be patient with me while I learn how to be in a relationship that's actually healthy. Noah's smile was slow and beautiful. I can do patient. Patient is my specialty. Even when I'm a mess? Especially when you're a mess. Some of my favorite moments have been you falling apart and trusting me to help hold you together. He reached up, cupped her face in his hand. Can I kiss you? I've been wanting to for weeks. Yes, Emily whispered. Please, yes. He kissed her softly, carefully, like she was something precious that might break. And Emily kissed him back, feeling something in her chest crack open. Not breaking, but blooming, years of what-ifs finally becoming real. When they pulled apart, she was crying and smiling at the same time. That was worth the 7-year wait, Noah said, his forehead resting against hers. We're idiots for waiting so long. Spectacular idiots, he agreed, but we're here now, that's what matters. They sat there on the couch, holding each other, and Emily felt the last pieces of her armor finally fall away. She was still scared, still uncertain about 1,000 things, but she was also hopeful in a way she hadn't been in years. Because this, Noah's arms around her, his steady heartbeat under her ear, his complete acceptance of exactly who she was, this felt like coming home. The weeks that followed brought their own challenges. Emily had a panic attack at the clinic when a patient presented with symptoms similar to one of her past misdiagnoses. She called Noah from the bathroom, hyperventilating, convinced she was going to fail again. He talked her through it over the phone, his voice steady and calm, reminding her to breathe, to trust her training, to separate past from present. When she emerged 20 minutes later, Dr. Chen was waiting with kind eyes and no judgment. "Happens to the best of us," her former professor said. "Take a break, reset, try again when you're ready." Emily took the break. She called her therapist for an emergency session. She let Noah hold her that night while she cried out all the fear and frustration. And the next day, she went back to the clinic and successfully diagnosed 3 patients without second-guessing herself into paralysis. Progress wasn't linear. Some days were better than others. But slowly, incrementally, Emily began to trust herself again. She made decisions, and they were right. She helped patients, and they got better. She was a doctor again, and it felt like remembering how to breathe. Her relationship with Noah deepened in quiet ways. They still slept beside each other every night, but now Emily let herself curl into his warmth instead of maintaining careful distance. They kissed goodnight and good morning. They held hands while watching Lily's school play. They navigated the complicated dynamics of blending their lives with patience and humor and honest conversation when things got hard. Lily took the relationship shift in stride, as if she'd been expecting it all along. "I knew you liked each other," she announced one morning at breakfast. "You both get that smiley look when you think the other person isn't watching. It's very obvious." "Nothing gets past you, does it?" Noah said, amused. "Nope. I'm very observant." Lily turned to Emily. "Are you going to stay forever now? Because I really like having you here." Emily glanced at Noah, who gave her a slight nod. "Your call." "I don't know about forever," she said honestly, "but I'm not planning to leave anytime soon. Is that okay?" "That's perfect," Lily said with satisfaction. "Forever is a really long time anyway. We can just do now and see what happens." Out of the mouths of kindergartners, Emily thought. Simple wisdom that cut through all the complicated adult anxiety about the future. A month into their relationship, Emily's parents called demanding to know where she'd been and why she hadn't come home. She took the call on the back porch, Noah sitting beside her for support. "I'm staying with a friend," she told her mother. "I started working at a community health clinic. I'm doing okay, Mom." "A community clinic?" "Emily, that's not what You were supposed to be finishing your residency, becoming a pediatrician. What happened to your plans?" "My plans changed. I'm still helping people just differently than you expected." Emily took a breath. "I know you're disappointed, but I need you to trust that I'm making the right choices for myself." There was a long silence on the other end. Then her father's voice, quiet but firm. "Are you happy, Mija?" Emily looked at Noah, at the house behind them, at the life she was building. "Yes, I'm happy, or at least I'm learning how to be." "Then that's enough," her father said. "Your mother will come around. Give her time." After she hung up, Noah pulled her close. "That was brave. That was terrifying. Those aren't mutually exclusive." He kissed the top of her head. "I'm proud of you." Emily was learning to accept praise without deflecting it, to believe that she was worthy of good things without having to earn them through perfection. It was hard work, harder than medical school had ever been, but Noah and Dr. Ramos and even Lily and her 5-year-old wisdom were teaching her that growth was possible, that healing wasn't linear, that being human meant being imperfect, and that was okay. 3 months after showing up on Noah's doorstep in the rain, Emily had her first completely panic-free week at the clinic. She saw patients, made diagnoses, provided care, and trusted her judgment without the constant underlying terror that she was about to make a catastrophic mistake. Dr. Chen noticed the change. "You're finding your footing," she observed during their weekly check-in. "How does it feel?" "Weird. Good weird, but weird. Like I'm remembering how to be myself." "You never stopped being yourself," Dr. Chen corrected gently. "You just forgot for a while." "There's a difference." That night, Emily cooked dinner for Noah and Lily. Her grandmother's recipe for chicken mole that she hadn't made in years because Marcus had criticized every aspect of her cooking until she'd stopped trying. The kitchen filled with the smells of her childhood, and when Lily declared it the best thing she'd ever eaten, and Noah looked at her with such open affection that it made her chest ache, Emily felt something settle inside her. She belonged here. She belonged in this life, with these people, in this moment. Not because she'd earned it or proved herself worthy, but simply because she'd chosen to stay, to try, to let herself be loved. After dinner, after Lily was asleep, Noah found Emily standing in the kitchen staring at the dish she'd made. "What are you thinking?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "That I haven't cooked that recipe in 3 years because someone convinced me I was bad at it. That I let someone else's voice become louder than my own." She leaned back into his warmth. "That I'm glad I'm here. With you. Learning how to trust myself again." "Me too." Noah pressed a kiss to her temple. "Emily, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Where do you see this going? Us, I mean. Are you thinking long-term or are you still figuring things out?" Emily turned in his arms to face him. "I'm thinking that I love waking up next to you. I love the life we're building together. I love your daughter and this house, and the way you make me feel like I'm enough exactly as I am." She paused. "I'm thinking long-term, Noah. If you are." His smile was radiant. "I've been thinking long-term since you showed up on my porch. Probably since college, if I'm honest. We really are spectacular idiots for waiting so long." "Yeah, but we're here now." He kissed her, deep and sure. "That's what matters." The following week brought an unexpected visitor. Emily was at the clinic when her phone buzzed with a text from Noah. "Rachel wants to take you to lunch. Says it's time she properly met the woman living in her brother's house. You up for it?" Emily's stomach twisted with nerves, but she typed back, "Sure, when?" Which was how she found herself sitting across from Noah's sister at a small Italian restaurant, being evaluated with the same sharp intelligence Lily had inherited. "So," Rachel said once they'd ordered, "you're the Emily from college. The one Noah talked about for months after graduation until I wanted to scream." "He talked about me?" "Constantly. Emily thinks this, Emily said that, Emily would find this funny." It was adorable and pathetic in equal measure. Rachel smiled. "I'm glad you finally figured your shit out and came back." "I didn't exactly come back intentionally. I showed up having a panic attack in a storm. And Noah being Noah, he took you in and helped you put yourself back together." Rachel's expression turned serious. "Look, I'm going to be direct because that's who I am. My brother is one of the best people I know. He deserves someone who sees that, who appreciates it, who isn't going to take advantage of his good nature. I know that. I'm trying to be that person. Are you in love with him, or are you in love with the stability he provides?" The question was harsh but fair. Emily considered it honestly. "Both, maybe? I won't pretend I didn't need stability when I got here. But Rachel, what I feel for Noah isn't just gratitude. He makes me want to be braver, to try harder, to believe in myself. He makes me laugh. He challenges me when I'm being too hard on myself. He sees all my broken pieces and doesn't try to fix them, just helps me figure out how to heal." She met Rachel's eyes. "I love him, not because he saved me, but because he's him." Rachel studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay. Good answer." She smiled. "Welcome to the family, Emily. Fair warning, we're all slightly dysfunctional, and Lily's going to rope you into increasingly elaborate science experiments. I can handle that." Lunch with Rachel turned into a 3-hour conversation about everything from parenting philosophies to career challenges to the complexity of modern relationships. By the time they parted, Emily felt like she'd passed some crucial test she hadn't known she was taking. That evening, she told Noah about the lunch, about Rachel's questions, and her own answers. "You told my sister you love me?" Noah asked, his eyes warm. "I did. Is that okay?" "Emily, I've been waiting to hear you say that to me for weeks. Hearing you said it to Rachel first is slightly devastating to my ego, but I'll survive." He pulled her close. "I love you too. Have for a while now. Probably since you showed up soaked and shaking on my porch, and I realized I'd gotten a second chance I didn't think I'd get." They kissed, and Emily felt the last of her reservations melt away. This was real. This was right. This was worth every moment of fear and uncertainty it had taken to get here. 4 months into living with Noah, Emily got an unexpected call from the residency program director at her former hospital. Her hands shook as she answered, expecting recriminations or demands to repay loans or formal documentation of her failure. Instead, Dr. Williams said, "I heard you're working with Patricia Chen's community clinic. How's it going?" "It's going well. I'm rebuilding my confidence, reconnecting with why I wanted to be a doctor." Emily kept her voice steady. "I'm sorry for how I left things. I should have handled it better." "Emily, I'm not calling to reprimand you. I'm calling to see if you'd be interested in returning to finish your residency. We have a new position opening up in our community pediatrics track. It's less intense than traditional residency, more focus on underserved populations and family-centered care. Dr. Chen mentioned you might be a good fit." Emily nearly dropped the phone. "I don't understand. I quit. I failed." "You left because you were being abused and couldn't function under those circumstances. That's not failure. That's survival." Dr. Williams paused. "Dr. Webb is no longer with this hospital. His behavior toward residents came to light and he was asked to leave. I'm sorry we didn't see it sooner, didn't protect you better." "He's gone?" "Yes. And we're implementing new protocols to prevent this from happening again. But Emily, that's not why I'm calling. I'm calling because you're a talented physician who deserves a second chance. If you're interested, the position is yours." After she hung up, Emily sat in stunned silence. The possibility of finishing her residency, of becoming a real pediatrician, of reclaiming the future Marcus had stolen, it was right there, within reach. But was it what she wanted? She talked it through with Noah that night, with Dr. Ramos in therapy, with Dr. Chen at the clinic. Everyone told her the same thing. The decision was hers to make, and whatever she chose would be right. In the end, Emily called Dr. Williams back with her answer. "I appreciate the offer more than you know, but I'm going to stay with Dr. Chen's clinic. The work I'm doing here matters, and I'm not ready to go back to the intensity of residency. Maybe someday, but not now." "I understand. The offer stands if you change your mind." Dr. Williams paused. "For what it's worth, I think you're making a good choice. You sound happy, Emily. That's worth more than any credential." When Emily told Noah her decision, he pulled her into his arms. "Are you sure? I don't want you giving up your dreams because of me." "I'm not giving up dreams. I'm choosing different ones." She looked up at him. "The life I'm building here, with you, with Lily, at the clinic, this is what I want. Not what I thought I was supposed to want, but what actually makes me happy." "Then I'm glad. Selfishly glad because I really like having you here." "Just like?" "Love. I really love having you here." 6 months after arriving at Noah's house in the rain, Emily officially moved her belongings out of her parents' place and into the guest room that had become hers. Lily helped her unpack, offering commentary on every possession. "This is a lot of medical books," she observed. "Are you going to read all of them?" "Probably not, but I like having them." "That's okay. Daddy has books he never reads too. He says they're for reference." Noah appeared in the doorway, watching them with obvious affection. "Your room's looking good." "It's our room," Lily corrected, "because we're a family now. Right, Emily?" Emily felt her throat tighten with emotion. "Right. We're a family." That night, after Lily was asleep, Emily and Noah lay in bed talking about the future, not in grand declarations or promises neither could keep, but in small, practical terms. Where Lily would go to middle school, whether they wanted to renovate the kitchen, how to navigate holidays with Emily's parents, the ordinary, beautiful mundanity of building a life together. "Are you happy?" Noah asked, echoing her father's question from months ago. Emily thought about it honestly. She wasn't perfectly healed. She still had moments of doubt, still struggled with confidence, still went to therapy twice a week to work through the damage Marcus had done. But she also woke up every morning grateful to be here, excited about her work at the clinic, in love with the man beside her and the life they were creating. "Yes," she said, "I'm happy. Or at least I'm learning how to be, which might be better." "How so?" "Because happiness that comes from healing, from choosing yourself, from building something real, that's more sustainable than happiness that comes from everything being perfect." She turned to face him in the darkness. I'm happy because I'm here with you, doing work that matters, raising an incredible kid, figuring out who I am when I'm not trying to be what someone else wants. That's enough. Noah kissed her softly. More than enough. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, and Emily dreamed of futures and possibilities and the life she was brave enough to choose. The storm that had brought her to Noah's door 6 months ago had long since passed, leaving behind clear skies and solid ground. She'd arrived broken, seeking only temporary shelter from the chaos in her life. Instead, she'd found something infinitely more valuable, a place where she could heal, a man who saw her clearly and loved her anyway, a child who taught her that bravery was just fear transformed by action, and most importantly, herself again. Not the person she'd been before Marcus, and not the person Marcus had tried to make her into, but someone new and more whole. Someone who'd survived the worst and chosen to try again, who'd asked for help and accepted it, who'd learned that love didn't have to hurt, and that she was worthy of kindness simply by virtue of being human. On a Saturday morning 3 weeks later, Emily woke before dawn to find Noah already awake, watching her with that soft expression that still made her heart skip. "What are you thinking about?" she murmured. "That I'm glad it stormed that night, that you remembered where I lived, that you were brave enough to knock on my door. Best decision I ever made." "Second best," Noah corrected. "The best was deciding to stay." He was right. Showing up had been instinct, survival, desperation. Staying had been choice, courage, faith in the possibility that she could be whole again. And every day since, she'd made the same choice: to stay, to try, to trust in this love they were building together. Lily burst into the room an hour later, already dressed and full of plans for their Saturday adventure. As they got ready for the day, Noah making pancakes, Emily helping Lily with her shoes, all three of them moving through the morning routine with practiced ease, Emily caught sight of them in the hallway mirror. 3 people who'd found each other through circumstance and choice, who'd built a family not because it was easy, but because they'd chosen each other day after day after day. The woman in the mirror smiled back at her, and Emily recognized herself completely for the first time in years. Not the failed resident, not the broken survivor, but Dr. Emily Martinez, community health physician, Noah's partner, Lily's bonus parent, and most importantly, someone who'd learned that the bravest thing you could do was let yourself be loved exactly as you were while still working to become who you wanted to be. The future was uncertain. There would be hard days ahead, challenges to face, growth that required pain and patience. But there would also be moments like this: Saturday morning pancakes, Lily's laughter, Noah's steady presence, the quiet certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. And that, Emily thought as they headed out into the bright morning sunshine, was more than enough. It was everything.